Shawnee. Welcome back. Guess what time it is? It is time for our weekly roundup where I go over all of the eyeshadow palettes I used over the past week and I rank them from least liked to most liked. Now today we have 7 slots and we have a bit more palettes because I did combine quite a few honestly, for the looks this week. So let's go ahead and jump on in. At number 7, I have the Nomad Verona Amore e Morte palette. And this is the palette that has 2 sides. And I use this palette to create the look for my weekly video with Jam Van. And it was a really cool like pink and gray look, and I was thinking of what shadows or palettes do I have where it's like all encompassed in one palette, and immediately I thought of the Nomad Amore e Morte. Now this palette is a little different, of course, because it has that double side, but also the shimmers in here are a bit of a different formula. They are more of like toppers, just like a lighter, less opaque kind of shimmer. I tend to like the shimmers in most of their other palettes, but I can appreciate that they tried something different, and you can get a very pretty look with these palettes. It's one palette, but it looks like 2. So this was number 7. It was the look I did with pink and gray. It was very like abstract and cool, like high fashion, editorial. So number 6 was a look for work. I say that like most of my looks are for work. So number 6 is the Plain Jane Remastered palette from Adept Cosmetics. This is probably at the top of, in terms of liking palettes, this is at the top of my Adept list. So I just went in with a multi-curl, one of these shimmers, and went about my business. I will say that I tend to like their palettes that are heavy on the shimmers, multi-chromes, duochromes, because I don't write home about the mattes. I tend to use mattes from other palettes. So I see a lot of Adept palettes as more of like companion palettes for your mattes. Let me know what you think, but the mattes are fine, but I feel like I just have mattes that I prefer over theirs, like a lot. Number 5 is actually the look that I have on today, and I used a combination of palettes. Both are from Vizart. So one palette that I used is the Vizart Dark Matte palette. It's just a palette of mattes. Just 12 mattes there, and I paired it with the Bohème Dream palette, and this is 12 shimmers. So I really like that Vizart has these like all matte and all shimmer palettes because it's really fun to like mix and match. Now I have the older packaging, but in the newer packaging that they have, okay, yeah. Like the newer packaging, the pans are magnetic and you can easily pop them out. The older packaging, you gotta do a lot to get the stuff out, but I like that you can then move things around, kind of create your own palette, which I really enjoy doing that. And I feel like Vizart is very reliable. I think the mattes do well, the shimmers do well. I would seriously only purchase them at a sale price and get the petites because you don't really need all these shadows, right? Unless you're like a makeup artist, you're not gonna go through these. I use these relatively on a regular basis and I'm not hitting any dips at all in any of them. So I would say wait for a sale, get the petite versions, and you'll be good to go. And if you're more of someone who just likes no muss, no fuss, straight to the point kind of eyeshadow, I think Vizart is a good brand to use. I'm thinking, as I'm saying that, I want to say that like if you want to do singles, Sydney Grace is also another brand that has like good mattes, good singles, not very like in your face kind of stuff, but still just are really good. So that is number 5. Number 4 is the look I did when I went into the office this week, and I still have the shades in my little kit pack here. Basically, I always do some sort of magnetic palette combination typically when I'm going in the office. It's just a lot easier than carrying bulky palettes. So these 5 square shades are from the Natasha Denona Joya palette. It was like a holiday release a couple years back. And these round pans are all Sydney Grace singles from my Focus palette of the year. And that's just a palette of 12 matte shades from Sydney Grace that I've tried to use consistently over the past year. So hopefully I'll do an update on that. I think I've made tally marks for the times that I've used them, but towards the end of the year I got a little lax on that stuff. But I really liked this palette, or this look. It was really simple. I felt like all of the shimmers went together really well, and they paired exceptionally well with the mattes. Yeah, I really like this color. It felt like, or color palette, felt like festive, but also not too much. So I'm definitely going to keep this palette, the Joya palette, because I was trying to determine if I would declutter it. I am going to declutter the other one that was released around the same time, the Aries palette. I did some swatches just as I was like playing around with makeup, and no, it's just, it needs to go. But the Joya seems like it's still pretty good. That was number 4. Number 3, that is the look I did with the Royal Rose palette from Cosmic Brushes. Here is the palette, and if you've watched earlier this week, you saw that I cracked it. That's what I get, because I had it on the floor, and I was like cleaning my new yoga mat, because it's like super high end, and you have to like clean it all the time. And I just had it laid out, but I laid it out on top of stuff, and then I was trying to jump over. It was a whole to-do, and that's what I get. But thank you, those of you who have given me ideas of what I can do to like cover it up. Part of me is just like, girl, get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Like, the palette is still fine. Now, yeah, I have, I believe, all of the Cosmic Brushes palettes. Oh yeah, there's a new one that I ordered. So that one will be coming. I'll do a video. Maybe Jan and I will do it together. But I really liked this look. It was bright because I used like yellow and a bit of orange in there, which typically I still gravitate towards my pinks and mauves and things like that. But this just has so much that you can do with it in terms of the various colors in here. I could see it being a little difficult to determine like what colors to put with what. I don't know that this one is as straightforward as maybe some other palettes in terms of the layout, but you can always pick like 2 shades, like a shimmer and a matte, or 3 shades, and just build from there. And then I think you'll be able to kind of decide how you want to put colors together. As I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this shade, and this shade would be a good combination. This one, and even that same shimmer. You can pair the yellow and the orange if you wanted to. You've got these pinks here as well. You can pair these two and maybe use this as a blending out shade. So yeah, just look at your palettes and kind of see what speaks to you if you have trouble deciding what shades to use with what. Oh, you could do this with this for like a light shimmery look, or even this one. Anyway. That was number 3. I really enjoyed the look. I had a good time doing it. I was a little surprised that I put that yellow in there. Number 2. Now, this was about to be number 1 because I was just looking real cute with this look. And I achieved it with the Pat McGrath Labs Artistry palette. This is her Celestial Nirvana palette. Show that to you. So I really enjoyed this look. It was like blue and like icy lavender. It was just really pretty. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have a thought of what I was going to do in terms of the look, but I did want to use one of the larger Pat McGrath palettes. And I just really like this look. Where was I going? Maybe I wasn't going anywhere. Girl, I don't think I was going anywhere, but I like the look, and that is why it is at number 2. Number 1 is a surprise to all of us, okay? So this day... Okay, yes, I was going over to a friend's house for dinner, and I wanted to put on a little bit of makeup, but I didn't want to do anything too, like, extravagant. And I think I'll have a video up on how I put it together. To me, it's a pretty boring video, but I basically stuck with using the Groundwork palette from Danessa Myrix. I don't hear people talking about this palette, and I feel like I'm talking about it on a weekly basis. So basically, I used a lot of the palette for face makeup. I used it for eyeshadow, contour, bronzer, color corrector, and I didn't use foundation that day. I just put on a bit of concealer to conceal like dark areas on my face, and then I used a bit of concealer under my eyes, and then I did everything else with this Danessa Myrix Groundwork palette. I did want some blush, and so I did pull out one of her blushes, the Blurring Balm blush, say that 5 times fast, in the shade Jubilee. So I used this for blush, and I used it for on my lips as like a lipstick. Yeah, so yeah. It was really simple, but I felt like really just pulled together a little bit, and I didn't have a lot of stuff caked up on my face. It was just really cool. I'm surprised that was like my favorite look. I think it just let everything shine through, like let my skin come through. It was just cool, girl. And I love that I was able to do everything with this palette. Now I continue to talk about my fear that I'm going to hit pan on some of these before others. Like have I used this? So there are some shades in here that I haven't even really touched. You could probably see that I use this from here to here, like probably every time I do my makeup with this palette. I often use this one as well. I think I've used this one as a base or a primer when I was using some gray eyeshadow. So I really like this, and I think that it definitely takes some patience and kind of getting used to the different formulas. I think I would say that for every Danessa Myrix product. So if you don't have that patience, or you don't feel like you want to play around with stuff, definitely don't get it. Because you can definitely get palettes that have sort of everything in there, and they're just like a strictly powder form. If you want something where you can get your bronzer, your contour, all that jazz. But if you want to play around, if you love Danessa Myrix, like you want to try something different. Ooh, this is so good. I love it. I love it so much. And I'm not a makeup artist, but I feel real makeup artisty with this palette. So that is 1 through 7, 7 through 1. Trying to think if there's anything that I want to mention that isn't eyeshadow related. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. I think one thing is just keep everybody in your thoughts and send the good vibes to everyone. There's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in all of our personal lives. So engage in your self-care. Spend time with friends and family that don't push your boundaries and don't make you feel like crap. You know, just take care of yourself. And I will keep the videos coming, okay? I will try my hardest to do that. I hope that you found something helpful, and I also hope that you're continuing to take care of yourself. I would love it if you liked the video, and I would love it even more if you subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what you used this week, or even what you plan to use next week, because I might take some inspiration from you. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.